All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Creative Entrepreneur Panel. We are just getting started, so hold on tight. Oh, lots of messages coming through. Oh, so exciting. All right, starting to admit guests. Welcome, everybody. So happy to have you here. So hold on tight. Okay. Welcome, everybody. I'm really glad the live stream worked. That's super exciting. We are live on LinkedIn for the first time in Creative Company. This is the inaugural LinkedIn event. Yeah, long time coming, finally. So happy that it happened. Figured it out. And we're just going to get people together. Welcome, Marty. Thanks so much for being here. Welcome, Patrick. Heard so many great things about you. We got Yelly here, co-founder in the house. All of our guests are ready. Rachel, Danielle, Chris, just in the wings, waiting to start. Hey, Wendy, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Hi, Colleen. Welcome, Colleen. Now, you can introduce yourself in the chat. Feel free to use reactions, emojis. We're here to participate. It's an active conversation, so don't be shy. You can add in your LinkedIn. You can add in all that good stuff. Be sure to, interact. There's lots of fun Zoom interactions now, so you can do that. And we're just going to give people a couple more minutes to enter in, and then we're going to get started. We got a lot of good things coming up today. Yeah. Oh, I'm so happy this worked. Thanks for the reactions. I can see them. That's awesome. Right, looks like everybody joined, and we're just going to get things kicked off as people come in, and I'll just admit them as they're coming in. Oh, here's Kulan. Welcome, Kulan. Welcome, Melissa. You're right in time. We're about to start. Thanks so much for being here. Super excited to see you. And we're going to get things kicked off. So I'm going to introduce Danielle, personality brand copywriter, Chris, UX designer, and Rachel, branding oracle. Super excited to connect with all of you today. We have some really great questions coming up, and I'm going to pass it off to the panelists to introduce themselves. And so we're going to introduce with who you are, what you do, and what is your creative spirit animal. Danielle, you first.
So hi, everyone. Oh, I'm just gonna change that. I'm having lighting situations. Clearly, I'm not a filmmaker. So, but I'm Danielle Hughes. I'm the Chief Personality Officer of More Than Words Marketing, which is a branding and copywriting consultancy. And what that means is I help individuals and organizations to put more of themselves into their message so they can attract the right audience and repel the wrong one. And my creative animal, I think it's got to be a starfish, which maybe not technically an animal. I don't know, but there's, something about having multiple arms in all different projects at once. And also if you cut one off, it grows back, maybe as something else. So, and they're super colorful and I love the ocean. And so we could go on and on. So that's me.
Love that, Danielle. I'm going to kick it off to Chris.
Hi everyone, my name is Chris Rivio. I'm a UX designer and Webflow developer. I was a new one I just added to my little hyphenated creativity name there. But what I do is essentially try and make digital experiences that people find really easy to use, delightful, and then also express kind of the brand or the company that they are working for. So that's that in a nutshell. I think if I were to pick a creative spirit animal, I'd also choose an ocean multi-armed animal. I actually thought octopus at first, but because they also have the ability to camouflage. So there's UX has this really great way of being just a framework that's applicable to any sort of industry, and that's kind of what I love about it, is that it's able to solve problems in whatever industry it is working in. And then it also has the different arms, so the different tools that it has access to. We can kind of use all of those to find some really great solutions for the problems we're solving. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. How about you, Rachel?
Hi, everybody. I am Rachel. I am the founder of Varga Girl Design, and my company is 20 years old. We create award-winning branding as well as brochures, infographics, annual reports, other marketing materials, and yeah, we kind of do it all. So I chose also kind of a multi-limbed thing, you might say, sort of. Dave Grohl, technically an animal. So Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters and of course Nirvana. So he's been honing his skills for many, many years, like myself. Super versatile, plays several instruments and sings and writes music. But I think the big thing for me is, his music's not complicated, but he brings all this passion to it. And that's why it resonates with people. So that's the thing that I really kind of related to.
I love that. Best animal I've ever heard. That's so cool. So we're going to introduce our first question. What's your number one tip for leveling up in the creative industry? Passing the mic to Danielle.
So the number one tip for leveling up is networking. Right? If you don't have a network, you can't level up because you won't have any connections. You won't know how to talk about yourself. You won't feel comfortable asking for help. You won't be able to help other people. Networking is the foundation of growing your solo business, hands down. It all has to start there.
Love that. Chris, what's your number one tip for leveling up in the creative industry?
Yeah, networking is definitely a huge one. It's kind of why we're all part of ICC, connecting with all creatives around the world here. But I think for me, and one that I'm working on currently, is not being afraid to show it and talk about it. It's really easy, especially early on in the creative industry career, to feel like you're not able to like show off and to be out there and to be like front and center and everything. But I think that's the only way, in addition to being in a network, to actually get people to know that you do the thing that you do. So for me, I would say the number one tip is to allow yourself to be seen.
Love that. And Rachel, what's your number one tip for leveling up in the creative industry?
Yeah, I would agree with you guys completely. But I think the first thing is to just do the work, to keep doing the work. And I think I'm a better designer than I was 10 years ago, than I was 5 years ago, than I was 5 days ago, because I constantly doing the work. And the more you do it, the more your clients will grow to love you and they'll talk. And that's part of the networking as well. And I think, for a long time, almost all of my work came from word of mouth because, I was committed and I still am. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Thanks, Rachel. That's a great tip. So we're going to move on to the second question. What helps you stay current and passionate about your craft? Passing the mic to Chris.
It's a good one. I think staying curious about what's happening. That's one of the things that I'm practicing. It's keeping up with what my favorite designers are doing and how they're applying stuff. It's being curious about the different ways people solve things. So I think you just heard my speaker turn off. It's being willing to learn and continue to be in this kind of beginner's mindset of, I don't know everything, so like, let me go figure it out. Let me go see what other people are doing. And then allowing that to fuel my passion in like, oh, I could do that and I could mix it with this other thing that I knew, but I didn't know it could mix with that, and have it kind of just create this chemical reaction of sorts.
Love that. Thank you so much. Rachel, I'd love to hear from you. So how do you stay current and passionate about your craft?
Yeah, I think Chris is right. And, I've been doing this for decades, but I don't know everything. And so when clients come to me with a problem, I'm excited to figure it out. And sometimes it's a design problem, sometimes it's a technical problem, but I think that's what you do. And having the passion for your clients and the variety of work that they bring you is just a big part of it. And if you don't have that, just make stuff up. Just keep doing it, right? Just keep designing, keep photographing, keep drawing, whatever it is, until somebody pays you to do it.
I hear you. I hear you so loud on that. So Danielle, what helps you stay current and passionate about your craft?
For me, it's experimentation. I think my coach talks about like using your business as like a lab. And I think it's so great to just try stuff, right? It's like, never done something before. I'm going to try it. What's the worst that can happen? It doesn't work. Who cares, right? Experiment with clients, with pricing, with what you offer, with processes, right? I think if you don't experiment, you're going to get stuck, right? Which is obviously the antithesis of growing and learning. And the more I try things, the more I get excited about the things that are possible. And I feel like every day is like a new opportunity. Like when I have calls with people and they're like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I do this, but I really want to do this, or I'm kind of working in this lane right now. So there's just something that keeps you very young and energized when you can kind of experiment with your business.
I love that. Thank you for your insight. So each of you are experts in a particular part of the creative industry, and I want to hear from you as the expert in that industry. So I'll be asking each of you an expert question specific to what you know best. We're going to start with Rachel. So Rachel, how do you know when you need a new logo and new branding?
Yeah, it's such a great question. So, Danielle will talk to you more about this, but, the first thing is, does your branding reflect your personality or your persona or your ethos? Because there's a lot of bland brands out there. And if it doesn't, it's time to look at that. And I think a lot of people, when they start out, maybe they can't afford a professional design, or they think they can do it themselves, or their nephew is really talented. So, maybe it's time now that you've grown your business a little, have it professionally done. Because this brings me to my next point. The logos that were designed 20 years ago were basically for print, and that is it. And logos in this day and age have to do a lot of heavy lifting. They have to be deconstructed. We need, avatars and favicons and all that stuff, right? They have to look good online. They have to look good in print. They have to do all this work. And so if you're designing a logo just for print, you're not thinking about those things. And, it's an important part of it. And then I would say, there's styles and trends that come and go. And like, if you're walking around with a logo that's got a drop shadow or something, you might as well be wearing a double-breasted suit with big shoulder pads. Like, it is just time to update that thing. So, let's make sure we're staying current and reflecting our that, we're current, that we're up to date with technology and our branding looks good. And I'd say the final thing, if you're creeping on your competition's branding, if you're looking at their website or their branding and you're thinking, damn, that looks good, well, you can have something that makes them jealous, but you might have to, hire a professional. But if any of those sound familiar, yeah, it's time to move on. It's time to get into the loop.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I have a follow-up question for you. So let's say a person this is our logo, this is what we've always had. I don't want to change it because this is what I'm used to. What's that negative side effect for just doing what you've always done and not moving with the times?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll tell you a quick story. There was a cafe that opened up in Toronto near the Sky Dome. I still call it the Sky Dome. Her her signage was papyrus. It was just papyrus, the font. She got hate mail. She literally got hate mail. There were people that lived in the condo across the street that said, I can't look at that ugly sign. I'm selling my condo. And when she told me about it, she was in tears. So, I mean, that's an extreme example. But it's really important that what you're producing, it's a reflection on you. So you need to make sure that it's professional, that it's, aesthetically pleasing, that it is versatile. And, again, don't be walking around in that old suit. Make sure you've got something bespoke and tailored that fits like a glove.
I love that story. That's a gem of a story. What an experience. So our next expert, Danielle, personality copywriting. I want to ask you, what is the value for a brand to develop a distinct personality?
Oh my God. I mean, do we have like 5 hours? I mean, it's everything. I was just talking to someone who said that she felt like she was talking to people and she had to dim her light to interact with them. I mean, that is the antithesis of what you want to experience if you have your own business, right? The whole point of owning your own business is to be yourself, be comfortable being yourself, and attract those like-minded people. So if you have a personality-based message that reflects who you are, everybody that comes to you is going to respond to who you are, right? You want to attract the right people and repel the wrong people. And the more you lean into yourself, the more you're going to do that. I mean, it's just one of these things where, I joke, I'm not just a founder, I'm a client. The more that I have leaned into myself since starting my business, the more my business has grown. And it's unbelievable to me that the more I just kind of like shake off all the pretense and I'm just like out here and I'm like, this is who I am, take it or leave it. People are like, yes, I want that. I want you. And I'm like, this is amazing. There's not enough of me, so, and I think we just get so afraid. We get so afraid of, rejecting people or hurting people's feelings or offending people. And it's really just about being true to yourself, because you want to be comfortable. You want to work with people that you actually like. That's the whole point of doing this. What is the point of pretending to be something you're not? You could have stayed in corporate and done that there. So the more you are yourself, it's just more, and you're more confident too, right? The confidence will come through if you don't have to dim your light, if you don't have to pretend to be something you're not. You can just say, this is who I am, this is what I do, and put it all out there. And, your fans will follow. I guarantee it.
Love that. What if you're afraid to repel people? I feel like that's a hard thing to ease into. I think that's the hardest part. So how do you work with someone that's afraid to repel?
So repelling is not offending. So I just want to create the distinction. Repelling just means you're vetting. So your message is only sending the right message to the right people. You're not, hurting anyone's feelings. It isn't coming to you. They're just going to read your message and think, this person's not for me. And you want that, because otherwise you are wasting your time on all of these discovery calls and consultation calls with people that aren't a right fit. So you can go and you can try and please everyone, but then you're going to be spending your time weeding through, it's like dating, like you're going to be weeding through the trash, trying to find the one gem, when if you just owned who you are, the gem is going to rise to the top anyway. Oh, and I had another point and I forgot it now. But yeah, the goal is to save you time and find you the right people. And you don't want to be at all things to all people, because then you're going to stand for nothing and then you'll attract no one.
Yeah, repelling is not offending. That is such a key takeaway, because I think that that's where my mind automatically went. And of course, I don't want to do that. So thank you for that. I appreciate the insight. Chris, expert in UX design. I want to hear all about how you approach a UX design problem.
Yeah, so UX design, just as kind of a lead into it, is technically a cyclical process, but so we can end up in a whole bunch of different places depending on what the problem is. But it all kind of begins with research. So me getting to know what the problem is that needs to be solved, and also getting to know the people. So who is the solution going to be for? So UX is based in creating solutions for people. So that's where it's really important to know who the solution is going to be for. So as an example, for in Creative Company, the first round that we did was creating experiences for the collective members and making sure that they are happy with the experiences that we made. So we interviewed them, we surveyed them, we had them test the current website and got as much information that we could about what was working for them, what wasn't working for them. And then after we got to know them and got all of that information, we were able to say, okay, this is the problem that we're going to solve. And then that's when we start building the solution and going through the different iterations and more testing and all of that kind of stuff. So in terms of approaching one, it all kind of starts off with getting to know what the current foundation is, so that we're not wasting time going towards a solution that isn't necessary. So I think that's the short and sweet version of it. Yeah.
I love that explanation, and I'd like to dive in further on. So a client, I talk to a lot of clients, and they want the design, they want the UX design, but they don't want to pay for the research. How do we sell that research portion like that? That's because that's really where the design comes from, but explaining that to them.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And that was actually kind of one of the pieces that a lot of UX designers also have to learn when it comes to making sure that people are at the heart of their designs. And what it all really comes down to is that the point of a business or a company creating a website or an app or anything that is made for their people to interact with, made for the customers, made for people internal to the company. When you're spending money on designing something like that, you want to make sure that they're happy with using it, because if they're not happy with using it, you're going to lose out on a lot of the interactions anyway. So, it's, granted, now UX is starting to become this thing that everybody's wanting. So it's not not as hard to sell. I mean, I'm also I know that you talk more with clients than I do at this point, but from what I'm seeing, UX is becoming a more widespread thing, and people are starting to accept it the same way that people are starting to accept branding as a concept. But for companies that have a little bit of apprehension towards paying for the research and paying for the UX type of stuff, it's kind of getting them to see that it's an investment in the future of that experience. They could pay for it, or they could skimp on it and move forward without having that base in research, and then have to come back again when the design that they have isn't working the way that they expected it. Or they could put the UX research at the beginning of the process so that they know ahead of time, they're based in research, or their decisions are based in research that they gathered from the people they're designing for, and they know for sure that the steps that they're taking forward are the ones that they need to take, instead of just making guesses based on what they're feeling, based on what people on their team are feeling. Yeah, it's ultimately just an investment in the future of things.
I love that. Thank you so much. And those are always things I'm thinking of as the point of contact for the client, and getting them to value that portion is everything you just said. So it's super key. I want to have a quick roundtable conversation regarding what is a project that you felt was like just the best project for who you are and what you do, and what was it, why was it rewarding? I want to hear about all of those like career highlights. So what comes to mind first? Like, it's that first, so I want to hear about it.
Hey, I'll jump in. I got to do the branding for a German restaurant in Toronto, which was very exciting. Anybody who knows Toronto, there's not a lot of European or German restaurants in the downtown part. So I had a colleague recommend me to somebody, and I got to do like the logo, the signage, the menus, even sort of talk to her a little bit about the decor. And she's cooking all my favorite foods, so I'm weighing in on that. And so for me that was really exciting. And she was just a great client in the way that she just, I think we were really simpatico on what we thought would be, appropriate kind of, typography and stuff. So it was really good. It was a really good experience. And unfortunately, it's not around anymore, but for the time that it was around, it was great. And it was definitely fun. And I'll just squeak in one more really quick one. My first job in Toronto in college was working in the Eaton Centre, the mall here, in retail for minimum wage. And one of my first big projects was to do the signage for a perfume store in the Eaton Centre. And I was walking through it. It was like less than a year after working in retail there, and I saw the sign and I lost my mind. It was like, I've made it. That was a big highlight, and that was a long time ago.
I'll go. I mean, I feel like a little bit, this is like picking your favorite child a little bit, like, and so it's hard for me, because I think I also feel like I'm completely hitting my stride now. And so all of the things that I'm doing now are just filling me up with so much joy. And I am just finding that I'm getting all of these individuals coming to me who are just really struggling with their message, and and then leaving with something that they love and that makes them feel so confident and so happy. And that just, I mean, there's like nothing better. Like when I tell people that my job is letting them be themselves, I'm like, I don't know how this is a real thing. Like, how did I make this a job? And moving into the corporate space now and working with employees on their own, like, what is it like to be an employee and have your own personality brand in the context of an organization and impacting, hundreds of people as opposed to, dozens, is transformative to me. And seeing that like what I'm doing can translate into the corporate space, and that people are like wanting that and valuing that, and like companies are seeing this need for their employees to also feel like they can be themselves in the context of the organization. So it just makes me super excited for the future and the potential of like what's coming.
Wow. I would say, I think it was the Creative Company website. Not just because it was it was one of the biggest projects I've been on, but because of the people that it was helping. It's this I said this to Ellie and Drea a couple of times during our project's kind of process, was like, it just felt so good to feel that the efforts that I'm putting into this project are going to ripple out, and I could feel the ripple and I could see the ripple. And it's something that I wasn't able to feel in corporate necessarily, which is kind of why I came into this whole creative business deal. But it was that project, this project that just launched even. It's so young in its infancy, but it was that project that really solidified that this is why I'm in it. It's to have moments like this where I'm seeing these two founders and seeing their eyes light up, and we're having these like conversations and about how things could be better and how things can change. And yeah, it's seeing the work that it was that project that helped me see that this work actually has so much potential to do great things, just like Danielle was saying.
Thank you, Chris. That's so sweet. We have some questions coming in, so that's super exciting. They're for everyone. So this is from Colleen. How do you balance create both your personal brand as a creator and your business's brand? Is it one and the same? Are there distinctions, especially if you're a one-person shop so far?
I mean, I'll happily take this because this is literally what I do. I think they are one and the same. But my whole philosophy, like why I call it personality brand versus personal, is that the idea is that you're bringing only as much into your professional message as you're comfortable with. So there is some separateness, of course, but you want to weave as much as you're comfortable with into your message as the face of your business, right? People are hiring you for you, right? It's like who you are first, what you do second, and cultivating that relationship. And so having more definition on putting you in that message and making it clear what they're getting with the professional expertise, to me, makes all the difference. And I'll just give you like a really quick story. So I recently changed my Instagram handle because of this very thing. So I teach and preach all these things about your personality brand, and they should be all one and the same. And as my business has evolved, my Instagram handle was like a reference to CrossFit, and it just really didn't have anything to do, even though it was my identity, sort of, it didn't really have anything to do with my business. And so I just rebranded it just to my name. And it was really heartwarming and amazing to see the reactions. I mean, I probably got more comments on that damn post than I've gotten on just about anything. And all I did was change my name. And I think because people were so interested in like why, and I didn't know the story of the name. And like me even telling the story of why I had the name in the first place gave people more of an insight into who I was. So I think the more you can meld them together, as long as, again, you're comfortable, you're not going to lose your sanity and feel like you can't step away from work, the better it's going to serve you professionally.
Love that. Who else wants to take some answers to it?
Well, I would agree with everything you've said there, and I think that your sort of business persona is really, it should really be you, just a little bit amped up, right? So, I mean, my tag is pretty powerful. Do I always feel those things? No, but I will try to, exude that and project that. And if I do that enough, fake it till you make it, right? You start to feel. So I mean, I don't really have a lot of, I am a one-man show, and I, more or less, and if the brand is authentic enough, it shouldn't be that difficult to maintain it and to, continue to project that.
Love that. Thanks so much. Chris, would you like to add in anything?
I was a little hesitant only because I think I'm still trying to figure out what parts of it for me are part of my personal brand versus business brand. And it's a thought that I have every day, especially at least once a day. I think like, is this something that I would share as Chris, or is this something that I would share as like web designer UX Chris? And it's not something that I have figured out yet, but I'm definitely taking those mental notes, and we'll probably read this back from Danielle and Rachel. And yeah, so if you go onto my Instagram right now, there's only 2 posts, and one of them was when I decided to do this, and the other one was blasting out this this panel, and that's about it. I've posted some other story stuff about things that I'm doing, but it's I'm still trying to figure out like how much of my personal life I want to be there, and have even thought about just making a completely different Instagram just for me to be a goofball on. But also maybe the goofball is the part that I want to bring out in like my business stuff. So it's all up in the air, and I think it's part of kind of the fun of this section of business. So yeah, I don't know if that answered the question, but that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I appreciate the journey, that transparency on how we're figuring it out and how it's an ongoing conversation. And it's been like that for everyone. We've all had to understand how to use social media for our own devices and the tool that it is and what it can be. I think is an interesting thing that we all go through as a creative professional. Catherine's got a really great question. So how did you get started and what were your biggest milestones up until now?
I could start this one this time. So I would say that the seed for this whole business was planted in corporate. And what I did in my previous job was UX adjacent. It was building proof of concept demonstrations for customers, but it was very salesy. So trying to convince somebody that the thing that I've built is for you, even if I didn't think that it was. And um, and as I was building all of these things, I was like, I really love doing this kind of thing, like designing digitally and building things out with code. And at that point, it was a no-code platform too. So I was getting my hands a little dirty with all of the stuff that's coming out. And eventually, it just felt like I needed to do it for not that company and do it for companies like In Creative Company and companies like Pizza Masters, and be able to think a little bit more beyond the solution that they were trying to sell and try to find the solution that actually fit for that company, for that brand, and feel good that it was what was right for them. So it was I'm so grateful for corporate for letting me do that, for teaching me those things about myself, and am now even more grateful for this new journey in figuring out how to express that. I think there was a second part to that question, maybe, but maybe the milestone. Yeah, I think the milestone was taking that leap and saying I want to do it differently. I want to do it in the way that I want to do it, and not looking back. I think I remember when I put in or like my last day, I kind of signed off and I sat there for a little bit and I'm like, this is good. Like I didn't feel bad about it. I didn't have like the shakes until maybe 2 weeks later, but it was delayed processing. Just kidding. But I really did feel like that was the milestone, was just believing that it could be done differently and that I could do it.
So I'll go next. I think, Rachel and I being the elders here, we have a little bit of a longer story probably. So I'll give you the quick TLDR, but I went to college to be an art director and realized I was a better writer than I was a designer. Somehow found my way into television marketing and was writing all the marketing materials for our salespeople to go out and sell programming. And the whole time refused to believe that was my real job. So I blogged and did other things on the side because I felt like I was selling out and I was losing my creativity. Then I ended up at a small word of mouth marketing agency and eventually went freelance because I got laid off from that job because they cut half the staff. So that was sort of the milestone, was kind of like, well, I don't know what I'm gonna do now, but I'm gonna figure this out. And I was a freelance copywriter with no direction, no brand, no nothing. And I did okay for a while. And it wasn't until a few years after that when all of my like kind of referrals started to dry up because I wasn't doing any marketing and I didn't have any positioning and nobody really knew who to come to me for. And that's when I created my business. I hired a coach and she kind of helped me tease out, you know, the gestational idea for More Than Words. And through the process of writing my newsletter, I came upon personality brand. So like the milestone for me is that was just like a one-off blog post that I didn't think was going to be anything. I was just writing content. And I referenced it a few times later, and all of a sudden people started to sort of be like, wait, what is that? That's interesting. Or tell me more about that. And, you know, I always say like, you got to say something about 2,000 times before somebody hears it once. And I feel like now 2-3 years later, now it's become the thing, but it's taken a really long time. But I think the milestone is also like listening, like even to Chris, like what he said, like listen to the market, listen to your intuition. Like there's going to be a sign that there's something there and you got to follow that and see where it leads. And nothing is forever. So you take a chance. And if it doesn't work out, you can always do something else.
That's such a good story, Danielle. I think yeah, I came to Toronto with just steely determination that I was going to become a graphic designer, and I went to college for that. I put myself through college. I worked full time, and I went to school, and I had nothing. I didn't even have enough money to feed myself, and I got my first job, and I just, you know, at the time, you know, this is pre-internet. I was like, I would show my book to anybody. It didn't matter if they were hiring or not. And eventually I got my first job in a printing company, which was great. And it was such a good education. And I think it was what kicked everything off. But my first sort of big break was actually an American art director, LaRue Shields, hired me, who taught me about design and taught me about typography and taught me about the finessey stuff. And that was really incredible. That stuff has served me all these years. And then I went on to work at some other agencies and studios. I was the art director at a web company right at the height of the .com bubble. And when that burst, I just thought, you know, it's time to do my own thing. I'm going to hang up my shingle. And that was 2001. So tons of challenges and obstacles. But here we are more than 20 years later and still going strong, better than ever. You know, had a banner year last year, you know, and I think even if I don't say so myself, I'm actually starting to believe my own hype, which is really great. It's only taken 25 years, but yeah, it's been a series of I think a combination of luck and talent and determination. And there were kids in my class, my graphic design course, way more talented than me, but I don't think they had the hunger that I had. And I had no choices. I had to make it work. And even to this day, I'm in an eat what you kill world. I have to find the clients. I got to pay my mortgage, right? So, you know, so that's a pretty good inspiration. But I've never looked back, and, you know, I feel really grateful and I feel really thankful. And I'm, you know, I really do love what I do. So, yeah, if you really want it bad enough, you can make it happen.
I love that. Thank you so much, all of you. This was the best conversation. Learned so much. All of you have such amazing wisdom. And if you enjoyed this, feel free to come back in exactly 1 month, Thursday, March 24th. We're going to be hanging out with William, Catherine, and Jillian. We're going to have another really great conversation. And if you hunger for more before that, you can come hang out with us at the Creative Pitch Practice. That's once a month, every Monday, 1 Monday every month. I just want to clarify that. We're not doing it every week. But it is really fun. If you want to talk about your services in a easier way, maybe a more memorable way, this is where you practice that with us. Very hands-on, interactive conversation that is group led. And then you can also see us on our Instagram. We do an In Creative Good. We've got past episodes there, and Creativity for Good. Our new one is Friday, March 11th with Gina. And Gina has a ton of conscious content tips to share and doing so much in the industry as well. And that's it. If you want to know more about us, come check out increative.co. You'll find out how to work with us and also how to hire us. So there's lots of different things and something for everybody. We have a ton of member only events as well. And that involves a sales sprint. It involves a member mentoring and a co-working session, lots of cool stuff. Definitely happy to talk to you about this in more depth if you're called to. So check out increative.co, fill out the form to hire us or fill out the form to join us, and we'll get the conversation started. Thanks so much for stopping by today. This was awesome. As always, love all of you so much, so blessed. And we're going to wrap this up. See you again soon. Bye.